Chapter 1, The First Accusation. The knock came at 8:47 a.m. I remember the time because I'd just poured coffee and was halfway through a client brief when the sound made me freeze. Two plainclothes officers. Polite, professional, but firm. They handed me a folded document and said I'd been served. Temporary restraining order. Filed by my ex-girlfriend. Her name felt foreign on the page. The accusation? That I had been following her, showing up near her work, leaving notes on her car. That I was unstable, possibly dangerous. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the version of me described in that affidavit didn't exist. I hadn't seen her in months. We'd ended things quietly. Cordially, even. I thought we'd both moved on. But apparently, she hadn't. The officer's tone shifted when he asked me not to contact her under any circumstances. I nodded, numb. My brain was still trying to find the moment where any of this made sense. I asked, "Is there anything else?" He gave me a tight smile. "You'll want a lawyer." Then they were gone. And I was left standing in the kitchen, holding paperwork that painted me as a predator. The worst part? I knew how this would look. Restraining orders aren't guilt. But in people's minds, they leave a stain. All I could think was, what the hell was she doing? And why now? I didn't know it yet, but this wasn't about fear. It wasn't about safety. It was about image, control. And burying me before I could speak. Because the moment her story collapsed, mine would finally be heard. Chapter 2, The Fallout. The fallout didn't explode. It crept. At first, it was an email from one of my top clients, "Let's hold off on the next phase for now, internal priorities shifting." Except they'd never once shifted a deadline before. And I'd just submitted a flawless batch of deliverables the week prior. I knew it wasn't about priorities. Then came the phone calls that didn't happen. The Zoom invites that disappeared. The polite cancellations with no reschedules. I reached out to two colleagues, people I'd worked with for years. Neither replied. By the end of that week, I'd lost 3 contracts. I tried to stay calm. I told myself this was temporary. But then I saw her post. She hadn't named me directly. Of course not. But the wording was surgical. Sometimes we don't see the red flags until they're outside our door. Digital harassment is real, even when it's invisible to others. There's strength in choosing safety over silence. Hundreds of comments. Thousands of likes. A few blue check profiles weighing in with support. One even offered her a podcast segment. And just like that, her story had momentum. I read it over and over. I tried to find a version of events where maybe she misunderstood something, where maybe I had accidentally been near her office, or sent a message I forgot. But there was nothing. The day she claimed I waited by her car, I was logged into a virtual conference 1,200 miles away. I still had the time-stamped attendance record. The screenshot she mentioned? Never existed. The gift left on her windshield? I don't even know what she was talking about. It wasn't confusion. It was strategy. I was being framed, carefully, deliberately, and in plain sight. My sister came by that night. Dropped 2 bags of Thai food on my counter and said, "We're not doing self-pity. We're doing strategy." I stared at her. She pushed the curry toward me. "You have the truth. You just need the receipts." I nodded slowly. Because she was right. In a world where anyone could say anything, the only weapon I had left was proof. And I was about to start digging. Chapter 3, The Backstory. We broke up over coffee. No shouting. No slammed doors. Just 2 people sitting across from each other at a quiet cafe, nursing lukewarm mugs and the slow realization that we were done. We'd been together almost 2 years. It was long enough to feel real, but short enough to avoid the mess of leases, rings, or families getting tangled in the fallout. When she said she needed time to find herself again, I nodded. Said I understood. And I meant it. We hugged in the parking lot. I watched her drive away. That was it. Or at least, I thought it was. The weeks that followed were uneventful. I focused on work. Hit the gym again. Reconnected with a few friends I'd drifted from during the relationship. There were no late-night texts from her, no staged run-ins. It felt like we were both doing the adult thing, letting go without drama. Then I started noticing things. A cryptic comment from a mutual friend on one of my project updates, "Proud of how you're handling all this." A client I'd introduced her to suddenly unfollowed me across platforms. An acquaintance I barely knew me out of the blue with, "Just checking in. Hope you're okay." Hope I'm okay. A week later, I found out she was seeing someone new. That didn't bother me, not at first. People move on. What bothered me was who he was. A well-funded startup founder with a PR firm on speed dial. Charismatic. Connected. A guy who built his reputation on optics. And the more I looked, the more it felt like she wasn't just moving on. She was repositioning. She started posting more, about growth after trauma, about finding your voice, about surviving emotional instability. The timing wasn't subtle. The captions were vague enough to protect her legally, but personal enough to imply a very specific villain. And it wasn't hard to guess who that was supposed to be. Her new boyfriend liked every one of those posts. And by the time I read her thread about how silence can be survival, I realized this wasn't about heartbreak or closure. This was a campaign. I wasn't her ex. I was her narrative. If she could make enough people believe I was the unstable one, she wouldn't just escape accountability. She'd gain sympathy, sponsorships, and story rights. And all I'd have left was the truth. And the receipts. Chapter 4, The Turning Point. It started with a glitch. I was setting up an old iPad I hadn't touched since before the breakup, just trying to get a second screen running for work. Halfway through the setup, apps started reinstalling themselves from the cloud. Most were harmless. Spotify. Notion. A few games I hadn't opened in a year. Then a notification popped up. Harper's location last seen, 0.3 miles from your current location. At first, I didn't register it. Thought it was an old data point. Maybe from before we broke up. Then I saw the timestamp. It wasn't old. It was 3 minutes ago. I opened the app, one of those Find My Friends style trackers we'd both used during the relationship. I'd forgotten it was even connected. Thought I'd removed her after we split. Apparently, I never unlinked the iPad. Her icon blinked on the map, a small, red pin parked near a corner coffee shop. The one 2 blocks down from my place. She'd told the court she hadn't been within a mile of me in over a month. That she'd rerouted her routines. That she'd changed gyms and found a new co-working space out of fear. But this wasn't fear. This was proximity. Intentional. I watched the pin for 30 seconds. Then 60. It didn't move. Then it disappeared. Not drifted away, gone, like someone had manually disabled permissions. I tried to reload the app. It stalled. When it came back up, the map was blank. Harper has stopped sharing location with you. My fingers hovered over the screen, still caught between disbelief and dread. Could she have been meeting someone nearby? Was it a fluke? Was it me seeing what I wanted to see? But the timestamp didn't lie. The radius didn't lie. The app didn't lie. She was here. I checked my phone. Nothing. No texts. No missed calls. No sightings. If I hadn't seen that notification, I wouldn't have known at all. That was the moment I stopped doubting myself. And I started wondering if this app was still connected. What else had she forgotten to turn off? Because for the first time, I wasn't looking over my shoulder. I was looking at her shadow. Chapter 5. What the logs revealed. The first thing I checked was my old laptop. It still had a synced folder from the cloud account Harper and I once used, back when we shared Spotify playlists and grocery lists. Most people don't think about those connections after a breakup. Neither did I. But Harper clearly hadn't thought about them either. I found a location history file tucked inside a generic export folder. Buried. Unmarked. Maybe she never knew it existed. But it was active, quietly collecting location data and app pings tied to a permissions sharing feature we'd set up months earlier. It had been syncing the whole time. And what it showed didn't support her story. It showed her at a boutique nail salon around the corner from my office, the same week she claimed in court she was avoiding all areas connected to him. It showed her car parked along the back side of my apartment complex on a Tuesday night, a location she swore she'd never been near since the breakup. One entry showed her at a gas station off exit 72, the same one I use every Sunday morning. She was there on a Sunday too. At the same time. For 3 consecutive weeks. I opened my calendar. Checked the dates. Every one of those Sunday mornings? She'd posted vague Instagram captions afterward. When boundaries are tested, anchor deeper. Even peace requires vigilance. She was building a story in real time. And the data? It told a very different one. I took screenshots. Exported the log. Backed it up twice. I didn't want to believe she was tracking me. But I couldn't ignore it anymore. These weren't coincidences. They were patterns. Her proximity to me wasn't incidental, it was deliberate. And I knew this wasn't enough to win anything in court, not yet. But it was enough to know I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't a threat. I was a target. Chapter 6, Legal Prep begins. Her version of events was public. Polished. Weaponized. Mine was buried in timestamps and export logs, the kind of truth that doesn't trend but holds up under cross-examination. I needed someone who could tell the difference. Angela Rios came recommended by a friend who'd been through a brutal custody case. She was sharp. Unshaken. The kind of lawyer who didn't blink when I said, she accused me of stalking. But I think I have her location history. Angela didn't ask why I waited. She asked for my metadata. We sat at her office desk, small, minimalist, organized like a battlefield. I handed over the drive I'd backed everything onto. She plugged it in, opened 3 folders, and nodded once. "You're lucky," she said. "Most people don't keep digital receipts." I didn't mean to, I admitted. The cloud just saved everything. That's usually how they lose, she said, tapping the keyboard. They forget the cloud never lies. Over the next week, Angela and her digital analyst pulled together a formal evidentiary file. They ran the location data against Harper's sworn affidavit. Compared timestamps, IP addresses, geotags on old social posts, things most people forget are even embedded. Every paragraph of Harper's original claim got matched against something objective. Her statement, "I've avoided his street entirely since February." Angela's exhibit, location ping, March 6, 7:12 p.m., parked 0.1 miles from my front door. Her claim, "He left something on my car." Angela's timeline, "I was clocked into a client Zoom call in another city, confirmed by biometric logins and third-party scheduling software." It wasn't just that Harper had lied. It was how clean the digital trail proved it. Angela leaned back after the final match was locked in and said, "This isn't just about clearing your name anymore." I nodded slowly. "It's about showing what she's really doing." Angela didn't smile. She didn't need to. "This," she said, "is how we win." Chapter 7, She Doubles Down. The day after Angela filed the motion to review the restraining order, Harper posted a video. It opened with soft lighting and carefully blurred edges. Her voice was low, steady, vulnerable. When women speak out, we're told we're crazy, dramatic, hysterical. But I'm not afraid to say it anymore, I was stalked. I watched it twice. Not because I was confused, but because I wanted to understand the new angle. She never said my name. But she didn't need to. She referenced a past partner who couldn't let go. A man who used tech to monitor my movements. And being forced into court to protect my peace. The comment section lit up like a match to dry kindling. Thank you for your bravery. This happened to me too. Say his name. We'll drag him for you. One of her sponsors reshared the video with a heart emoji and the caption, "Truth telling is power." I sat at my desk, watching the timeline flood with support. Angela called me that evening. She's building a wall, she said. A public shield, in case she gets caught in court. She's daring me to respond, I muttered. Exactly. Don't. Angela had seen this before. A strategic escalation, provoke a reaction, then use it to validate the original claim. So I stayed silent. I didn't post. Didn't respond. I let her build her audience, her version of events, her carefully curated trauma arc. Because while she was shaping a narrative, we were assembling facts. And soon, her own performance would cross the one line even she couldn't spin her way out of, perjury. Chapter 8, The Setup. Mediation wasn't supposed to feel like a trap. Neutral setting. Controlled environment. No recordings, no courtroom drama, just two parties and their lawyers, seated around a sterile oak table under the soft hum of recessed ceiling lights. But from the moment Harper walked in, I could tell she wasn't here to compromise. She wore careful neutrality, beige blazer, low bun, a delicate gold necklace I'd bought her once during a weekend in Asheville. Her posture was impeccable. Not tense, not defensive, just perfectly poised. Like she'd practiced. She didn't look at me. Not once. Angela had warned me. Mediation is her chance to lock in her story before court. Don't challenge. Don't interrupt. Let her talk. The mediator, a silver-haired woman named Janine, greeted us with a professional smile and a soft voice that somehow still filled the room. We're here to discuss the concerns raised in Ms. Lynn's protective order, she said, folding her hands. Ms. Lynn, would you like to begin? Harper pulled out a neatly folded sheet of paper and unfolded it with slow precision, as if even the rustle of the page was choreographed. He's shown up near my work more than once, she began, eyes never leaving the page. He left a card on my windshield. It said nothing, just a drawing of a clock. I had to change my gym. My office. Even how I get home. Because every time I turn a corner, I wonder if he'll be there. It was clean. Polished. Her voice didn't tremble. Her eyes stayed fixed just slightly above the table, as if addressing some invisible jury. I sat still, hands folded, while Angela's pen scratched steadily across her yellow legal pad. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't refute. I didn't explain. I asked questions. Which gym did you switch to? What day was the card left? Where exactly did I appear on your street? Harper hesitated only once, a pause so brief most people wouldn't have noticed. But I did. She answered all three. Calm. Specific. Too specific. Because everything she just said was verifiably false. Angela's team had already mapped the entire GPS trail for the date she claimed I'd circled her office. That day? I was logged into a secured video conference. Biometric sign-in, facial recognition. I hadn't left my apartment. The gift on her windshield? No security footage. No handwriting. No witnesses. But the parking lot she used had 3 cameras, all reviewed. Nothing. Then came the slip. I had to cut my meeting short at Alloy Collab the other week, she said, voice steady. He showed up near the building. I panicked. Left before my client even finished her pitch. Angela didn't move. She just tilted her head slightly. Because we already had Alloy Collab's entry log. Harper had used her account to book a private booth. And the digital check-in data showed she stayed for 2 hours and 54 minutes, her client left before she did. We let it sit. The mediator thanked her, turned to us. Angela simply said, "We'll need a full transcript of today's session. Including timestamps." The mediator nodded. Harper kept her posture perfect. But for the first time, I noticed her right thumb tapping against her knee. A soft, quick rhythm, nervous energy trying to find its way out. Because she still thought this was a performance. What she didn't realize was that it was also being recorded. Not by cameras. Not by microphones. But by every lie she was layering onto a timeline we'd already built. And that timeline would be waiting for her in court. Chapter 9, Courtroom Shift. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. No sweeping gallery, no grand jury box. Just 2 rows of benches, a worn wooden rail, and a judge with a reputation for zero tolerance when it came to wasted time. Harper sat at the opposite table, her lawyer whispering something into her ear. She didn't look at me, but her foot tapped out a nervous rhythm under the table, the same tick I'd seen during arguments she thought she was winning. Angela leaned in. "We stick to facts. No emotions. Let her unravel herself." The hearing began with formalities. The judge reviewed the protective order, then turned to Harper. "You'll have the floor first." Her lawyer stood. Confident. Practiced. She painted Harper as a woman under siege, manipulated, monitored, emotionally terrorized by a man who simply couldn't let go. Every sentence dripped with urgency. And fear. Then Harper took the stand. She spoke with calm resolve, repeating the claims from mediation almost word for word. Said she'd seen me outside her office. That I'd changed my phone number just to message her anonymously. That I'd waited outside her gym, left a clock drawing on her windshield, and disrupted her business meetings by lurking nearby. I watched the judge's face closely. No reaction. Just notes. Then it was Angela's turn. She didn't go for the throat. Not yet. She started with a single document, a login report showing I'd been actively engaged in a Zoom meeting during the exact time Harper claimed I was hovering outside her co-working space. Then she introduced Exhibit B, the digital key entry logs from Alloy Collab, proving Harper not only stayed the full length of her meeting, but that she'd checked in and out solo. No evidence I'd ever been near the building. Harper blinked. Once. Twice. Angela let the silence grow teeth before moving on. "Ms. Lynn, can you explain how your public post on March 3 references seeing the respondent near the flower kiosk on Main, when our GPS logs, pulled from your own cloud account, show your location was 3 miles away?" Harper opened her mouth. Closed it. I may have confused the date." Angela didn't flinch. "You also mentioned receiving an anonymous package. Would you agree this is the image you shared of it?" She held up the printed post, Harper's own image, time-stamped, geotagged. Then she held up security footage from the building's mailroom. It showed only one person picking up a package that day. Harper. No delivery. No stranger. No interaction. Angela lowered the papers slowly. "Your Honor, we believe the restraining order was filed under false pretenses, supported by fabricated events, and used to inflict reputational harm. We ask that it be dismissed in full, and that the court retain this testimony for review under potential perjury." Harper's face drained of color. Her lawyer shifted beside her, quietly flipping through their folder as if searching for an off-ramp. The judge cleared his throat. "I'll review the materials and issue a ruling by Friday. Until then, this court is adjourned." The gavel came down. And just like that, the story she'd built with hashtags and curated trauma cracked in half. The silence in the room as she gathered her things. It was the sound of a script losing its author. Chapter 10, her story starts to collapse. It began with a comment. Just one. Buried under hundreds of hearts and praise on Harper's latest post, a new headshot, captioned with "Healing looks good on me." Didn't the court just dismiss your protective order? No name. No profile picture. But it lingered. She deleted it within minutes. But not before screenshots started circulating on Twitter. Then Reddit. Someone dug up the public court docket. Others matched her quotes from interviews with specific claims the judge had flagged for inconsistency. The thing about building your brand on victimhood? It only takes one crack to make the whole thing feel rehearsed. Influencer accounts began to quietly remove their collaborations. A podcast episode she'd recorded titled "Speaking Truth to Power" vanished from Spotify overnight. A wellness brand issued a vague statement about re-evaluating partnerships in light of recent developments. I wasn't gloating. I was watching. Because I knew she'd strike again. And she did. Harper went live the next morning. No makeup. Hoodie. Dim lighting. Tears already waiting in the corners of her eyes. Sometimes women stay silent because they know they'll never be believed. Even with evidence, even with truth, the system favors the abuser. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even a pivot. It was a last stand, emotional artillery fired at anyone starting to doubt her. But the tone had shifted. Comments now included. Wait. Weren't some of those stories proven false? This is feeling a little manipulative. I supported you, but now I feel used. Angela called me that afternoon. This isn't about clearing your name anymore, she said. This is about damage control. She's not backing down. She's doubling down. Is it working? I asked. Angela was quiet for a beat. No, she said. But she's going to try to burn the house down on her way out. I stared at the paused livestream on my laptop. Her eyes were glossy. Her voice raw. But the words? Scripted. And somewhere in her apartment, I imagined her scrolling. Watching the story fall apart. One comment at a time. Chapter 11, Final Blow. It was Angela's idea. We've held back long enough, she said, scrolling through her tablet. You remember the geofencing app? Yeah. We used it to track overlap between your devices and hers. GPS, Wi-Fi pings, Bluetooth. Everything. And we've cross-referenced it all with timestamps from her social posts. I nodded. We'd talked about this already. Built a clean record. We'd even turned it into a sealed exhibit, just in case. Angela tapped the screen again. We also found something else. A folder opened. Inside, video files. Not of Harper. Of me. Or more specifically, my apartment building's security footage. One clip showed her waiting just outside the front entrance at 6:12 a.m., bundled in a hoodie, standing under the overhang like she was out for a run. Except she didn't move. She didn't knock. She just waited. Angela fast-forwarded. Another clip. Different day. Harper exiting the back stairwell. Not coming in, coming out. How did she even? Angela raised an eyebrow. Your keypad hadn't been changed yet. I felt something hollow open in my chest. All this time, I thought I'd been safe inside my own walls. But Harper had been steps away. More than once. Angela leaned back. She used your access to stage incidents. To fabricate presence. And now? We have indisputable proof. We released the file through the court, not online. No grand post. No viral takedown. But leaks are inevitable. Within 24 hours, someone from the courthouse shared the exhibit list. By day 2, a viral tweet broke it wide open. Turns out the woman who claimed she was stalked had access to his apartment. We've got footage. It spiraled from there. Podcasters called it the reversal. Reddit coined a thread, #stalker. Flip. Harper went dark. No posts. No lives. No carefully worded statements. Just silence. The kind that doesn't feel healing, it feels like hiding. And for the first time in months, I breathed. Not because it was over, but because the truth, quiet, steady, unglamorous, finally spoke louder than her script. Chapter 12, Closure. It didn't end in court. No gavel, no dramatic ruling, no moment where justice rang out like a bell. The court dismissed the restraining order quietly, just a clerk's voice confirming what we already knew. The evidence spoke louder than either of us ever could. But endings aren't paperwork. They're moments. And mine came in the strangest place, a parking garage on a Tuesday. I was coming back from a client meeting, keys in hand, distracted, half scrolling through emails when I heard the footsteps. Soft. Hesitant. I turned, and froze. Harper. She stood a few paces away, hands wrapped around herself like she was trying to stay upright. No makeup, no entourage, no camera-ready smile. Just her. We stared at each other in that strange fluorescent silence. "You win," she said. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't even angry. Just tired. I didn't say anything. I wanted her to speak first. "I didn't mean for it to get so big," she finally said. "It started with one post. Just a few words to remind people I was still relevant. And then it caught fire." "You lied, Harper," I said, voice low. "You accused me of things that never happened. You said I stalked you. That you were afraid of me." Her eyes flicked to the concrete. "At first, I just wanted people to care again. My numbers were down. My partnerships were drying up. I felt like I was slipping. And then when I saw you." Her voice caught. "Moving on. Doing fine. You were fine. And I wasn't. So you made me the villain," I said. She didn't deny it. "I needed a story that made sense to people," she whispered. "Something that would justify why I was unraveling. Something they'd rally behind. And when the attention started to come back, I told myself it was worth it." "And the footage?" I asked. "You broke into my building. You waited outside my door. You crept through the back stairwell. Why?" Her face cracked then. "Not fully. Just a hairline fracture." "Because I missed the power," she said. "Knowing I could still get close. Still control the narrative. I told myself I wasn't hurting anyone, until I realized I couldn't stop." We stood there for a long moment, the hum of the lights buzzing faintly overhead. "I never wanted to ruin you," she said. "You didn't," I replied. "You almost did. But I got to the truth first." She looked like she wanted to say more, but there was nothing left. No twist. No redemptive arc. Just the sound of her breath, shallow and unsteady. "You're going to lose more," I said gently. "Your brand, your sponsors. Maybe your followers." She nodded. "I already have." I stepped past her without another word. Not to be cruel. Just done. Closure didn't come from her confession. It came from knowing she couldn't take anything more from me. Not my name. Not my reputation. Not my future. And when I pulled out of that parking garage, the sunlight hit just right, cutting clean through the windshield, warm and sharp and blinding. Like something had finally shifted. Not the world. Me.
Thanks so much for watching. If you love a good revenge story, or if you've ever dreamed of getting the last word without saying much at all, you're in the right place. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new savage ending. Because around here, karma always hits different.